If you've been to the movies in the, let's say, last 50 to 60 years or so, you've more than likely heard a score by the inimitable John Williams. We're celebrating the career of this prolific composer with some of our favorite scores. Stay with us.
Get ready for the 3324 podcast, where lifelong friends Dean Legiro and Eric Kuber share their love of all things music and movies. Dean has directed short films and is a music trivia buff. And Eric, trained in audio engineering, brings his extensive knowledge of music and film to the conversation as they discuss, debate, and celebrate their favorite albums, films, and much more.
Welcome, friends, to the new and improved 2025 version of the 3324 podcast. Welcome aboard, everybody. Hope you have a happy new year to everybody listening. If you're new, we're so happy. You've got a lot of great stuff ahead in store. And there's, we can say, Eric, hundreds of episodes.
Isn't that great?
Hundreds. And many of those episodes contained this man, our special guest, Mr. Andrew Cremeans.
Not R2.
Happy New Year. He was our original OG, the very first guest we had on, and it's always a treat to have him back. How are you?
Always a pleasure to be here. So I'm excited.
So
yeah, this is we're all sporting, just so we get this out of the way. We've got our particular John Williams shirts on for those watching on YouTube, with the particular font associated with a particular film. Because he has done so many, which we're going to get into. What we're gonna do, just to for our regular listeners, this is not like a top 5 way we're gonna kind of grade them. We're gonna go through a selected filmography of John Williams. We'll probably skip over some, but when we come to one of the 3 that each one of us picked as our favorite scores, we'll stop there. We'll put a pin in it, and we'll talk about that a little bit, and then we'll move through the timeline. Hopscotching, but you can certainly let us know on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube what your favorite score is and why it resonates with you. We're just picking 3 each, because if we went further than that, we would be here a long time. So let me give you some stats.
Well, can I hijack the conversation for 1 second?
Hijacking of the year.
Thank you guys for having me on. It's always a pleasure. I've got a question though that I think could possibly be uniquely answered by your audience or the people that are on this podcast right now. But we've all heard of Mandela effects, and it's usually about the Berenstain Bears and the, Shazam and all that stuff or whatever. But when I was a kid, I would put every single cent of my bank account on this as a bet. Okay. When I was a kid, I remember very, very specifically watching Phil Collins' In the Air Tonight video. And when his face came on the screen, like with the lighting, whatever on the video, it had the listing, Capitol Records, whatever at the bottom, Phil Collins, whatever. It said In the Air Tonight, and then in parentheses it said Hold On. It said Phil Collins, In the Air Tonight, Hold On, and then the record and all this stuff. I swear to God, with every ounce of my being, I will put my hand on a stack of Bibles. I don't know if it was Friday Night Videos and it was wrong, or if it was MTV and it was wrong. I know that that's not the lyric.
So so what you're saying, Andy, is in the caption when they would, back in the day, they would show the record label, there was a parenthetical after In the Air Tonight.
Yeah. And it said, Hold On, not Oh Lord. I know it's Oh Lord. You don't have to tell me it's wrong. I know it's wrong. But it's, I know for a fact that I saw it somewhere. And if anybody that is listening to this right now had the same memory or remember where it was or what happened, please write and tell me I'm not crazy, because I swear I would bet every single cent in my bank account, and I why would I care? But I just remember it so vividly. So because for years and years I just thought it was Hold On because I saw it. That's what you told me. Don't you lied to me. So
again, we're going to put the word out. So anybody on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, or send a self-addressed stamped envelope to P.O. Box 123.
Yes.
Any town, you can let us know that way. But let's kick it over to Eric, because if anybody would have seen this video everywhere or anywhere at the time, it would be him. So Eric?
You know what? Now you got me thinking, man, because I don't know. I don't remember distinctly that seeing anything in parentheses, after the title of the song.
I just remember it buzzing, like the CRT television, like the white was I mean, like I remember it like it was yesterday. It's crazy.
Right.
Anyway, I don't want to drag this out, but I wanted to throw it out there because if anybody can answer it, it's your audience. So let's see what happens.
This is a bona fide mystery of the
conundrum.
internet.
We'll have to look into it.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've seen Reddit threads where people thought that was what the lyric was, but nobody's ever talking about the video. But somebody has said that if you watch the video and you can't even lip sync his mouth, you can't tell what he's saying. You can't tell if he's saying "Oh Lord" or "Hold on," So it's crazy. Anyway,
all right. There's
thank you for humoring me.
2025 that we have to solve. So, and everybody get on it, and you better believe you know what I'm going to be doing once we're done.
Right?
See how you just, Thanks, Andy.
Leave it to Andy. You have to get us.
So before I get to my internet sleuthing and my Reddit trolling. We're going to talk a little bit about Mr. John Williams, who is still with us. So we're not doing this, after his passing. Knock on wood, thank goodness. But he was born in Flushing, New York, in 1932. These are just some interesting factoids. He composed the music for every Spielberg film except for 5.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he was nominated for 54 Oscars. He won 5 for Fiddler on the Roof, Jaws, Star Wars, E.T., and Schindler's List were his wins. Nominated for 6 Emmys, he won 3. Nominated for 25 Golden Globes, he won 4. Nominated for 71 Grammys, he won 26. He has the most Oscar nominations for a living person.
Wow.
He's the only person to be nominated in 7 different decades: the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, and 2020s.
Wow.
We're not done yet. He charted on the Billboard charts 3 times with Jaws. The theme from Jaws hit number 32. Star Wars theme hit number 10. Close Encounters hit number 13. And Eric will remember that era when those things were popular enough that they would be radio hits. Soundtracks, instrumental themes from TV shows and lyrical themes from TV shows. The 70s was anything goes, which was so great about it, is you would hear the theme from Jaws and then you'd hear Casey and the Sunshine Band.
I can understand Star Wars or something, but like Jaws, like you're driving down the highway.
Yeah, and you're hearing the theme. You know what? It was the 70s. Last tidbit, he announced his retirement in 2023 after scoring Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I'm paraphrasing here. He said, fuck that. I'm paraphrasing, and he unretired.
Yeah.
So he is not going to stop. And we're only talking about in this episode his music score. He has done a ton of other classical work with the London Symphony Orchestra and all the different pops. And so this guy is beyond prolific. Apropos for this guy. Well,
yeah, I got to watch him conduct live. I don't know if I told you guys this or not, but it's a Star Wars Celebration in 2022. They had the big hall. You could like get into a lottery and get into the big hall, and it was the year that Obi-Wan, the TV show, had come out. So he came out to conduct the theme to Obi-Wan, but it was just a stage, and then they had like Ewan McGregor came out and like, ladies and gentlemen, Ewan McGregor. He comes out, and everybody's standing up or whatever, and then like grabs the mic and he goes, hello there, and everybody just like the roof just explodes, and just like standing ovation for 10 minutes. But then like they're like, ladies and gentlemen, John Williams, and everybody's like, what? And like the stage opens up and the freaking orchestra comes like on a wheel like thing, or like just comes out, and he just like starts conducting the Obi-Wan theme and stuff, and Harrison Ford comes out and is all like, John Williams. Yeah. And he did the indie theme. And anyway, sorry, but you're absolutely right. There was a quote from, from Steven Spielberg. He says, without John Williams, bikes don't fly, nor do brooms in Quidditch matches, nor do men in red capes. There is no force. Dinosaurs do not walk the earth. We do not wonder. We do not weep. We do not believe. And that is so perfect because, like this guy, what other composers are household names? Not for us nerds, but like common folk. We have, I mean, my mom can name, probably John Williams, that she could at least hum Star Wars theme or whatever. You're not doing that with Danny Elfman or Hans Zimmer, like Morricone maybe, but you. I hope I'm saying that right, but like nobody knows what his name is. You can whistle the but like name the guy, and we can, but I mean, just like it's not disposable music. It's not like there are composers that are kind of filler music, and like there's like even movies that you've seen 1,000 times, you can't even if it would feel wrong if there wasn't a score, but you can't hum it. Once you come out of it, like even like I'm not even talking about little no-name movies. I'm talking about big established ones. Like, can you hum the theme to Forrest Gump right now?
Yeah.
Or Braveheart, or Gladiator, or Gone with the Wind. These are all movies that everybody has seen, but you can't hum the theme. I mean, this is But I'm sorry, I get
no, that's okay. I think also what the broader point, or maybe it's the finer point that you're making, is that John Williams is not just he has done so many different types of films, which is going to be highlighted in what we've chosen actually.
Mm-hmm.
That you most people will be like, oh well, he does sci-fi stuff and indie, and I don't watch that, but Memoirs of a Geisha and Schindler's List, and there's so many other films that he has done. He is so eclectic that he does not pigeonhole himself. That you will have heard something.
Yeah.
Even if you don't know his name, if you've been to the movies, like I said in the opening, in the past 50 years, you have heard his work.
Or the Olympics.
Whether you knew it or not, or whether you liked it or not, or whether you thought he only did a type of film or not, chances are you were in the audience. And we're not even going to hit everything he's done.
Yeah, absolutely. The Olympics, the Olympics theme, like everybody's heard that at least once. It's on NBC. Yeah.
And the most interesting thing to me is I heard him say that when asked, he basically said, he goes like, I'm not a movie. I don't watch movies all that much. That blows my mind, because it's like this, you built a career
an empire
on giving us emotion. You're giving us, you're making those movies what they are. And he's not a film buff. He's not a film lover. It's all, every time you hear the man like interviewed, it's always about the music. It's always about the notes that, he goes into detail, incredible detail about how it's composed. And he never talks specifically about scenes or the film itself, which is interesting. I found that very interesting.
I love watching him.
Let me ask a quick question to the both of you, because I don't know the answer.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about this as I was listening to the scores of the films that I chose, and I was listening to some of the other ones too. And you just said he's not really a movie fan, and maybe Andy could probably answer this better. I wonder what his workflow is. If he knows, okay, I got hired for this movie,
mm-hmm.
Jaws, whatever. It's about a shark. Does he start pre-composing stuff and have ideas and then see the film? Or is he seeing the film and then going from there? Because he has to see the assembled thing, or he has to see close to it to be able to get the right beats, right, for the action and for the for those crescendos to hit properly.
Yeah, I don't know about. I mean, maybe like theme sound, like this would be a good hook. But I just watched a couple of like documentary stuff with him or whatever. And one specific thing he was talking about is he generally has about 6 weeks to write the entire movie, like a 100 minutes worth of music or something like that. And he was just talking about how that's just what happens. Like it happened to all the people like Mozart and all the guys that were being hired, like, hey, we want a new thing for church on Sunday. And you've got like until Sunday to write a new piece of music. It's like it's the deadline defines what gets done or how fast it can get done or whatever. And that's like, we just, what is that? Like perfect is the killer of greatness or something like it. It's just like, you gotta know when to move on, I think. So I think that he probably, I don't know this for sure, but it seems like he probably hears hooks in his mind sometimes and tuck that away for later.
He has to have something or he's got to be able to access musically from the past, like when he's had to do emotional here's an emotional piece, here's a thrilling piece, but I need to make it different. But I'm sure he's able to musically access different things and say, okay, I need to be in this vein or in this style, unless it's something really different, which Eric has one on there. So let's get the party started.
Well, just really quick, what I don't understand is when they cut out 14 seconds of a shot, like when they're editing the movie down to the next, like the movie's coming out tomorrow, we got to get the can to the theater, and they're editing out 14 seconds of film. Like, how are you cutting the score like that? That's what I've never understood. How do they band-aid that? That's
anybody knows. Let us know. Yeah, this is not like somebody making an album and recording and then say, okay, well, what's the order going to be? And then you kind of get the order. You're creating something and you're exercising your muse, and a piece of music is unless he makes this stuff. I would know. Maybe, unless he makes this stuff to be editable.
Yeah, I would think it's very akin to like
that can be edited,
to script changes right on the day, like people changing the script on the fly. Then you're completely changing. You could be completely changing the whole mood of the scene or an emotion, and he has to be with that. It's amazing the process, and
none of us bothered to research that.
Yeah,
that's the quality you can expect from.
There's got to be an answer somewhere. I'm sure
we got to leave something for the listener to do. So
I think that's the one thing I will say is the fact that because of his great collaboration with Steven Spielberg, who the majority of the films that he's scored has been his. I think that there has to be a sort of
simpatico.
They know each other backwards and forwards. They know exactly what they're thinking, and there's a lot of that I think happening in that vein. I suppose, but
all right. Well, let's get the show on the road. Like I said in the beginning, each one of us picked 3 films. We're not going in any particular. We're not going round robin. We're going chronologically. So you may hear from us more than once in a row before you hear from someone else, whatever it is. But that's how we're going to do it. I think it'll be more fun that way to kind of go through his career. So let's start off with Fiddler on the Roof, because that was the first project that he won an Oscar for in 1971. And Eric, you picked Fiddler on the Roof.
I did.
So why don't you tell us what about this early piece of work before he was really a quote unquote big time composer?
I had seen the film obviously after being exposed to Star Wars and all these films. I didn't actually see the film adaptation until probably in late 80s or whatever. So it came to me later, but I fell in love with the story. I fell in love with the movie, and but the thing of it was that I instantly recognized in this adaptation, he didn't compose this, he didn't write the music, he didn't write the songs, but his adaptation, you instantly recognize his voice and the way he composed, and whether it's in,
his musical voice for people,
his musical voice, whether it's in the right key, whether it's the choral arrangements that get me. I could probably give you an example, which would be Tradition, which is the opening number. You listen to the choral arrangements of that particular number, you hear Duel of the Fates, you hear all of these things that he would be doing later on with these like choral, and people could be speaking gibberish, but it's the sound of the voices is what you hear, and instinctively that it's John Williams. And that's what got me is I actually heard like a recording of the original Broadway, show with Zero Mostel, which was, it was good in itself. And then I saw a revival of the play in like the early 90s. I went and saw it on Broadway. And yes, seeing that perform live, you appreciate the energy that the actors are bringing. But I was missing the score for the film. I was missing the gravitas that Williams brought to it. I don't know. There was something about it that was just magical. He really elevated the emotion of that story to a certain degree that I just, and it also featured one of the first like collaborations with a solo instrumentalists. In this case, it would be Isaac Stern on the violin. Later on, he would do, work with Isaac Perlman on Schindler's List, and of course Yo-Yo Ma and Memories of a Geisha. But those like working very, very closely with these soloists and getting that right had to been, a big thing. And I really, of course, and as a younger back then and younger, I didn't really appreciate all that. But now I'm looking at it and I'm like, and I could listen to this score and I could say, yeah,
John Williams.
It's John Williams. There it is. Yeah.
Awesome. No, I like that as a jumping off point of your coming to recognize in a film that you might not necessarily have, wouldn't be in your wheelhouse, but enjoying it because you're hearing echoes or foreshadows of things that he would do that you're hearing in his early work.
Absolutely.
And it grabs you into something else. It's grabbing you into a different movie experience.
Yeah.
Which is kind of neat, which, we'll get into a little bit of maybe some redundancy or some thievery from John Williams. But, one of the things about him is his stuff is always unique, and for someone that's done this kind of stuff, maybe you could pick out some similarities in some things, but for the most part, everything is unique. Every big one is unique. So, yeah. Let's move on from there. So that was 71. In the early 70s, Eric and I will remember there was a big thing with disaster films. So he had done Earthquake and he had done The Towering Inferno, but it would be 1975, Andy, that Jaws would come out and would really became, like I said, it charted. That theme charted. Now, what is that theme? It's nothing but the cello strikes, like really at its core.
Did you see the John Williams documentary on Disney Plus?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it was great. Well, I was just going to throw in. Spielberg said the first time he heard it, he laughed. He's like, okay, play the real thing.
Yeah, I'm paying you for this.
Yeah, he was like, this can't. He thought he was taking the piss or whatever. So like he was like, play the real one now. He's like, no, this is it, and this is just pretty funny.
Yeah, the thing about the soundtrack that always struck me, it didn't strike me later as an adult because it's so easy to get caught up in the dun dun, which is great. But what I love about the Jaws score and soundtrack is how the second half of the film becomes an adventure soundtrack. The score becomes like high adventure, like it really kind of goes for and it changes and I remember watching it as an adult, and I'm like, wow, this music is actually changing the whole tenor of the film. It went from this horror film to like this seagoing adventure film just because of the music is just kind of going there.
Yeah,
and I think that's what. I think that's what the movie needed. It didn't need the foreboding because we had gotten that. And now it's kind of, and the movie itself shifted gears into that, which I really kind of dug. I was like, wow, this is kind of like
that was
totally different
genius.
than the beginning
That's
stuff.
Absolute genius is creating, and whether or not it was his idea, Spielberg's idea, it really, that's what makes it such a wonderful collaboration in that regard. Yeah, because it felt like it felt like a pirate movie or something, like the swashbuckling, like we're going to get this thing,
totally took it in a different direction.
Yeah,
I think, on the documentary it said that he gave him a temp track, or he temp played it already, but he was using an adventure score from a score from an adventure movie beforehand, and that's why when he came in with the 2-note thing, he was like, "This is not at all what I was thinking," but he might have let's split the difference,
Spielberg has those preconceived notions of what it should be because of his love for those kinds of movies in his youth. And then Williams comes along and say, this is it. And it's like, whoa, you completely blew my mind here. Yeah. Like now we're appreciating the work of a master. So
yeah. And it wouldn't be but 2 years later that a little sci-fi film with a $9 or $10 million budget would come out called Star Wars, which would change everything. And it's the first one I picked. It was a give me. It was going to be a give me.
Yeah.
And a lot of reasons. Again, what we had, Star Wars was a sea change in a lot of different things. The more I thought about it, had Star Wars not had this type of a score, it might not have done as well.
No,
because of the score for Star Wars is big. It's theatrical.
Mhm.
Kettle drums, a lot of classic score elements that are in there. Different just like cello and violin phrases in the background. If you remember in the 70s, most of the movies were cheesy, especially sci-fi, so they had a cheesy soundtrack.
Mhm.
And I think having a score on this level, I think elevated the film into people like, wow, this is actually something like a throwback to something from the 50s, like with this beautiful score that literally as a kid, and Eric will not fight me on this, you could literally listen to the score and watch the movie in your head.
Mhm.
It's one of the few scores I can sit down and listen to and be like, oh, that's the part with the Jawas. Here they come. You're like, because everything is so iconic to the different parts of the score, and even as much as even the Cantina Band and coming up with this different type of music for this alien bar band.
Yeah.
Which was just absolutely, I remember going to kids' birthday parties and kids were getting the Star Wars soundtrack on vinyl as gifts. Like that it became that, like you weren't getting like Boston or Foreigner.
No, but
kids were getting like Star Wars like score as gifts.
I would add, I mean, you could listen to that soundtrack, that original soundtrack, the way it was sequenced in its original form as a pop album. You could listen to it, and I'll go even further and to say, like, you could envision the movie, but in your case, Dean, you had mentioned that you hadn't even seen the movie, like for a whole year, or was a year or 2 years before you actually saw the film.
Local theater. So.
Yeah,
wow.
So you got to experience that music before you even saw the film, which was amazing.
Kind of almost like reading the book before the movie in a weird way.
I was going to say very early on that I think that one of the reasons why John Williams sticks with my specific generation, I mean, we're the same generation, but like my age specifically with most kids, was we had the record and the companion record with the storybook.
Yeah, the story. I had that too.
Like turn their page when R2 beeps or whatever. So it was somebody reading the book while you're reading the book, but that the music is playing the whole time. Same thing with Superman, same thing with all of these like big hits or whatever. Those soundtracks were part of we got to hear it over and over and over again with the stuff. So it was pre VHS or any of that, but we had, like I would check them out from the library, the tapes, the cassette tapes with the books. And but yeah, I mean, like his character motifs is what who's on screen listening to the record. Because of you hear Leia's theme, you hear Han's theme, you hear the Jawas, and it's like, oh, I wonder what's happening with Han in this scene or something, So he's just
lots of big musical movements also within, like the TIE fighter attack, I think, or the escape from the Death Star. It starts off really sedate, and then all of a sudden it picks up, and you're getting the staccato horns, and just like for someone young listening to this, it is. Tantamount to listening to classical music, obviously. But it's connecting it to something that a kid likes, which is sci-fi and lasers and starships. And I think that's was a big inroad, I think, for soundtracks. I think as everyone had every big movie had a main theme. But Star Wars had, like you said, Andy, a lot of different things, a lot of different parts. Or John Williams would reuse the Star Wars main theme, like he would bring it back in subtle areas, almost as a callback. Just gently, you would hear that refrain again.
It would go on to spoil things later in other movies where a character would be on screen and like the Force theme would play 3 notes. It's like hinting that, is something up with this guy, or something like that. But it was, the thing also about the Star Wars soundtrack is what he does this with Superman. He does it with a couple other ones too, where it's like, it's like punching you in the face. And then you're like, oh my God, what is this? But then it does it lets you calm down for a minute and like soar, you know what I mean, for a little bit and get that little emotion back. And then it comes back and it's like, dun, 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 back. He does that. I forgot what it's called. It's not like, it's like call and response or something. There was a word for it where it's just brash in your face, and then he lets you calm down for a minute, and then it's back into your face, whatever.
Yeah,
So
then he reprises it,
yeah,
Last word
so
on
good.
Star Wars. I don't think there's anything more iconic than the word Star Wars splashing on the screen, like Andy said, with the whole fanfare beginning. I mean, even when I go see it again in the theater, I get chills from it, because it's just like, like all of a sudden these words appear and the music is blasting at the same time, and it's like this big, like in your face theme. So,
can you think of like any kind of soundtrack that was made like this that was applied to disco and was a hit selling album? What was it, Nico or
Miko did it?
Yeah.
Nico. I mean, they just took songs from the freaking movie and put a disco beat, and it worked, and it was a best selling album. It's crazy.
They did that with,
and this is, and we're talking, this is before the movie even premiered. It wasn't even in theaters at this point. That you heard this stuff on the radio, knowing full well that this was going to be a hit for some weird reason. If the movie had tanked, you could just imagine what But the marketing to this thing from the get-go was
everything. Just all the tumblers, the tumblers just fit together for this film, and springboarded us to the same year, 1977. Spielberg would come back with a sci-fi film, but not really in outer space, but a little more grounded in Earth. Eric, Close Encounters.
Yeah, I mean, this very similar to your story, Dean. I mean, I had the soundtrack, but I actually didn't see Close Encounters until 1980, which was the special edition, which was he redid. He added some scenes and all that kind of thing. But this score was distinctively different from Star Wars. It really adhered to what I ultimately came to find out was every scene was the music adhered itself to every scene in this film, and it gives you such a range of emotion. You have everything in this score. It's become one of my favorite scores of Spielberg, if not my favorite Steven Spielberg film score collaboration with Williams. You get mysterious, you get terrifying, you get whimsical, you get confounding, you get awe-inspiring, childlike wonder, and finally you get spiritual at the end. That ascension of the mothership rising at the end of the film is like you're lifting up to the heavens. It's like one of the most brilliant pieces of music and again, and then throwing in that little, stanza of "When You Wish Upon a Star" was a stroke of genius, something that I don't think even Spielberg knew he was going to do, because it has that in the film where, Neri is, he wants to take the family out to see Pinocchio, and of course that hit home for me because that happens to be probably my favorite animated film of all time. So it was very special in that regard. And the film itself has become very special to me as I get older. But just the soundtrack, and and of course that famous 5-note, and when you hear Williams being interviewed by anybody, this is one of the first movies he's going to call out and say, what's your favorite score? And the typical response to that would be, oh, it's like my children. I can't pick a favorite. It's like whatever. But in this case, Williams always says Close Encounters. Like Close Encounters is one of his most proudest achievements. And it's all because of that simple 5-note thing that he came up with, which, by the way, is not just a piece of score. It's actually, a part of the movie. It's a plot device. It actually, it is something in the film. It is the conversation. It is, so it's more than just a simple piece of music.
Yeah.
And then you get this wild ride of the conversation, which was when I first heard it, was like, what the hell is this? You're hearing this bombastic symphonic score to Star Wars, this beautiful music. And then you get this sort of weird, almost electronic thing going on with sort of Brian Eno-esque, and Williams would delve into those kinds of things. Yeah. But yet, when it first starts out, it's kind of a synthesizer kind of thing, but then it becomes this very symphonic thing. And it's kind of a mess, but it's that's the movie though. That's the conversation. That is the moment and you're just drawn in, and it's just, you know.
You're talking
Apparently
about
there were
Yeah.
pages and pages of those 5 notes, like
Yeah.
different ones, and they picked one. Could you imagine it not being that though? Like it's so iconic,
Yeah.
you know.
and with the hand motions,
Of course,
and
Yeah.
tying that all in with
the whole- yeah. I
Yep.
remember. I remember I saw that in the theater when it came out, and it was just like I didn't know what what I was watching at the time.
Yep.
Because it was just so bizarre. It's like, oh, it's the guy from Jaws, but it's extraterrestrials, and he's making a mountain out of mashed potatoes, and is he going crazy? And what's happening?
Well,
Then
the movie itself
scared
is
me.
crazy. It's
kind of
chaotic.
like a mystery.
It's a mystery. It's like you're terrified in one scene. You're elevated to like a certain emotion in another, and it's like the family's splitting apart and this whole big thing, and it's like, but Williams was right there all along the way, and he captured every moment. I think musically, and of course, later on they would release subsequent, extended editions and all that kind of thing. But if you listen to like the second, I think it was the first re-release, my pick would be like the last track on that soundtrack. It's like 12 and a half minutes long, but what you're getting there is basically the whole movie right there, because it starts off very sort of sinister, and when the doors open in the mothership, and the things, people coming out and the aliens coming out. So it goes from that to this like tremendous, like uplifting score, like at the end of the ship rising. It's just, it gets me every time. So yeah, that it's one of my very favorite
Close Encounters.
scores. Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
If we move to the next stop, it would be 1978. But he did in 1978. He did the soundtrack for Jaws 2. We'll pass over that because we want to get to 1978, the other film he did, where he made us believe that a man could fly. Yeah. Andy, this is your first pick, Superman.
Yeah, this is my number
original
one
soundtrack.
I don't know if you guys have seen the Christopher Reeve documentary, the super comma man, but I mean that's all the tears and stuff like that. But I mean, like I'm a huge Superman fan, and it all stems from Christopher Reeve, John Williams. That first, I mean, Superman 2 is my favorite. Obviously, with Zod, because you can't go wrong with Zod. But I just Planet Houston. It's same thing with Star Wars. It's got that tension, the dun, 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 like it says the word Superman 2 or 3 times in the actual music almost, and it's got the hints of the old Max Fleischer cartoon, like original theme and stuff like that. But then like, my favorite though, I mean, everybody knows the Superman theme, and the whole thing is great. And like, the whole, like Spielberg says, Superman can't fly without John Williams, but there is something very specific about the soundtrack. It's the Superman love theme where they're flying over New York. And there's something about that specific song. There's 2 songs, maybe 3 songs that John Williams composed that make me tear up 100% of the time. And that's one of them. And I'm not exactly sure why, because I was too young to understand love or any of that stuff when I was a kid. But when I got older and would hear it, it would remind me of being a kid and what I thought love was. And that it's just got this innocence to it. And it's the song reminds me of a happy time in childhood. And I think that, when I had the record and I would listen to, I would see the thing and I'd hear whatever, but it just feels like weightless, like love. And the funniest thing about it though is that it was supposed to be a pop song. And that's what I love, this fact. That song was supposed to be sung by Margot Kidder, because they're flying over. Exactly. They're flying over New York, and she looks over at him, and in her mind, she's thinking, what does she say? Can you read my mind? Can you read my mind? Whatever. That's the first lyric of the song. She was supposed to be doing, can you read my mind?
Yeah.
And along with the music, and it was supposed to be released as a pop song and released with the record as like a top 40 hit. Margot Kidder got into the recording booth, and they're like, no. It's so that they changed the scene to, like, they rewrote the lyrics so it wouldn't rhyme as much.
Yeah.
But she basically says everything that she's saying in her mind while she's staring at him while they're flying was the lyrics of the song.
Oh, wow.
And then then somebody named Maureen McGovern.
Marie McGovern,
Yep.
did the
Yeah,
single.
she recorded the song and
Uh-huh.
it got released, but it wasn't really a big hit. But just that that's the thing too. Like I was talking about with Star Wars, where it hits you with and smacks you in the face, and then like while the credits are swooshing over your head, it lets you come back a little bit and just soar for a little bit, and then go back into the stuff. But I mean, it's what Joseph Campbell was to Lucas to storytelling. I just feel like John Williams is to score and to music, and I you can't have Superman without John Williams, and you can't have Superman without Christopher Reeve. Those movies, at least the first two movies, are just, it's like lightning in a bottle. Like the three of them together, if you take one element out, it's not good. But
Yeah. Now, Andy, to connect this to the present.
Yeah.
The James Gunn Superman teaser of a trailer teaser just came out, and they basically use an electric guitar homage to the original score. So we're talking some almost 50 years later, close to 50 years later, that resonates through all the reboots, and as cheesy as Superman got, it's still beloved, and it's still, a lot of people say that, like, Christopher Reeve is my Superman, and that's it. That theme can reverberate 5 decades later and be used again, and I think that's one of the things that people liked. There's a lot of divisiveness about that trailer, but that's one of the things that people liked about it. It was like, oh, that was kind of cool that they kind of didn't beat you over the head with it. It was there, and it was subtle.
The only like 90% of the people that are complaining about the Gunn thing are people that are Snyder fans that can't handle anything else. But that's a whole other conversation.
Right.
But I'm looking forward to it. I got to work on a little bit of something for this new Superman movie, and everything that I saw looked amazing. I can't wait to see it. I trust James Gunn.
I saw the trail. I immediately thought of you, Andy. I think Andy's going to dig this, and he needs this.
Yeah, I do,
because you absolutely hated Man of Steel and Snyder's vision of, and I get it.
Yeah. I got one word for you guys. Crypto.
Yeah. There you go.
It.
Not the currency.
Right?
No.
I mean, like, it's a shame because Henry Cavill, amazing. Every single frame that he is in that suit in any of those movies, he would have been perfect. But they just never gave him anything to work with. It's unfortunate.
And they move on. It's hipper now to reboot than to stick with people. It's like, okay.
One of the things that I love about the original theme, the main theme, is his knack of creating the central part, but then having this secondary thing that follows it up. And my favorite part of that theme is like when it, dun, 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 dun. That to me is like, that's what gets the hairs on my neck going up. Like not so much just the main part, but that part gets me,
that's the call and response, quiet
moment. Yeah. Right.
Dun, 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 dun. Superman, I'm telling you, it's all over it,
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Safe to say that Star Wars and Superman became the most copied themes when lesser studios wanted to make a superhero film. They sounded kind of like Masters of the Universe. Kind of sounds like they're going for the Superman theme, and when low budget sci-fi films would try and would make something, it's like, well, now we have to make it sound majestic like Star Wars. So they would kind of take the phrases and maybe flat or sharpen some notes so it's not exactly, but it's like those two scores I think became like the blueprint of, all right, well, superhero film, it has to kind of sound like, we got to make it sound like Superman, like it's got to have that big sound to it, I think those two, right, Andy, became kind of like the blueprints going forward for anybody with a budget below a certain level.
Yeah. I mean, they really, Spielberg, Lucas, and Williams really put a wall up against the synthy, kind of Clockwork Orange direction, with the, it brought back the class.
Brought back the class. I like that. So after Superman the movie, he would do another Spielberg film, 1941, which was just a dog of a film, and just we won't even need to talk about that. Of course, he returned in 1980 for Empire Strikes Back. We're gonna stop the bus at 1981 with Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Can I say one really quick thing about Empire? I'm so sorry to stop you
it's
there.
got Vader's theme in it, so
Okay. Well, when it comes just Empire, Empire has got the Han and Leia theme, and that's my favorite musical motif in all of Star Wars.
Really?
That's the other one that makes me tear up. There's something, I mean, other than like the Force theme, which is just super iconic, but the Han and Leia theme have got that, like, it's got like beauty and sadness and hope and uncertainty and passion. It's just got this, like, it's so perfect. Like, it's just so perfectly lined up. And I wanted to say one thing too for Star Wars before I forget. If you guys ever get a chance, check out, there was a guy named Gustav Holst, Holst, Gustav, and he wrote a song called The Planets in 1914. So it is every single modern movie score from that point on you will hear in this one song. It blows my mind that this guy wrote this in 1914. It almost feels like somebody went back in time and wrote a movie theme before movies were invented. So you got to check it out. Gustav Holst, The Planets, everybody. And I think that, John Williams has said it was highly, inspired by and stuff like that. But
he got some grief for I think for Star Wars.
Yeah,
because the planets is a whole section of it's a whole series of movements, and each one is named after a different planet. So it's a whole symphony called the planets, and there's a Pluto, a Jupiter, and I believe
Mars. Mars is Hans Zimmer. Yeah. Like Pluto is John Williams. I mean, it's insane. Like anyway. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt.
I'll find a link to something on YouTube that compares the Star Wars theme with what Holst did, and it's it's pretty bang on.
To wrap it up though, the Han and Leia theme. Say what you want about the sequel trilogy, which we don't want to talk about probably, of Star Wars. The very first full trailer of The Force Awakens, where we first hear where Han's like,
it's all Jedi, true, all of it or whatever.
It's true. It's all whatever. And then it cuts to the Millennium Falcon, and it does the Han and Leia theme. Goosebumps every single time. It's one of the best trailers ever cut together. That first full Force Awakens trailer. I mean, I just watched the trailer. Don't watch the trailer. Again, just adding Han and Leia's theme it's just so freaking brilliant.
Just to make a point on Empire, by as a soundtrack, to come, Star Wars was such a great soundtrack in itself, but then to come back with this another double album of all brand new music with all new themes. And not only that, but you had some really great incidental type, scene type music, Battle in the Snow and the asteroid field and all this. I mean, it's amazing the level of complexity that, that he would continue to do. Like he just, improve upon himself like every time. And that was a tremendous soundtrack too, to by itself. I mean, it was, as I recall, when it came out, there was so much music that actually wasn't in the film on it. And I'm like, what is this? I never heard this. This is not in the movie. What's going on? And there's like about a third of the stuff on that soundtrack is not in the movie. Yeah. And that's no joke. And that's wow. It's great.
Prolific does not encapsulate.
Yeah.
Where is that? So let's jump to 1981. Raiders. This was going to be another slam dunk for me. But the more I think about it, is it's very easy. It's another one of those instantaneous, but when you listen to the soundtrack, that's not really in it that much.
Yeah.
And the soundtrack for me, when listening to it, like, if you look at everything he was doing before this, it was either fantasy, horror, or sci-fi, right? Raiders took place on Earth during a particular period in time. So it was grounded, for the most part, grounded in reality. It's not a fantasy. So the music had to reflect that. It couldn't just kind of go wherever it wanted to. It had to be tied to a certain time period. It couldn't really go past that. But also it had this soundtrack is a very moody soundtrack. It's very brooding. It's very ominous feeling. There's an undercurrent of tension throughout this whole. It's not all the rollicking stuff. A lot of it is very much. It's very very tense, incidental music and suspenseful. Like that things are always going on in the background. It's not as it has the rollicking elements, but not as much as you would think from an Indiana Jones from Raiders of the Lost Ark, which I kind of like. It's very brassy. It's a lot of horns in it. That he uses to kind of really punctuate, less strings and more horn based. I don't know if that, what kind of choice he made with that, but for me, like Star Wars is so upbeat. Even the tense stuff has an energy to it, and Raiders has a really kind of pulled back feeling to it. When I was listening to it, it's like this stuff is really it's low key. It's ominous. It's kind of just in the background, like the music is lurking in the background in Raiders, just kind of it's kind of creeping up. It's kind of creeping around behind the characters. Doesn't take over like it does in Star Wars.
Well, it's very much set. I mean, the set pieces you hear those stand out, like the basket chase, but things like that. But then it's always that impending dark cloud of the Ark.
Yep.
Looming, and that's what I love about that score. It's like that's probably my favorite is the map room when he uncovers the and of course the end when the Ark is opened, and it's but there's always that dark shadow, and you're right, and you're dealing with Nazis, and they don't particularly treat it with kid gloves in a sense. I mean, it's you got to show some I don't want to say respect, but on the other hand, it's like, but you can't
some deference.
You cannot really like make fun of this stuff too much. You know what I mean? It has to be a certain level of decorum.
Yeah, can't be slapsticky.
Right. Exactly. So, but it's a great score. Yep.
Andy, anything about Raiders?
No, I agree with everything that you're saying. I imagine that Temple of Doom was even darker. Yeah. We'll get there. But I agree. Yeah.
All right. Well, moving on. After Raiders, 82 would be E.T. the Extraterrestrial, which is another one of those iconic magical scores.
Yeah.
Right. 83.
Side note, speaking of Empire Strikes Back, there's a scene where they're trick-or-treating and you see Yoda. Somebody dressed up as Yoda, and it kicks into Yoda's theme from Empire Strikes Back for a little bit, and then cuts back to the
Easter eggs.
I just love it so much.
Always throwing that stuff in there, and
then ETs show up and
didn't they with these guys. I mean,
and Spielberg and Lucas would be trading punches because 83 would be Return of the Jedi soundtrack. Anybody have anything about that?
It's my favorite of the original trilogy because I was the perfect age for that stuff, but that's a whole other conversation. It was just it was beautiful.
Well, that's my that's Zach's favorite film. And special to him. It's now become special to me in that sense. But I was the only thing I will add is I was actually kind of disappointed when the soundtrack came out because it was only a single disc, single record. And the other two were like, oh my God, this is great. And it just seemed the lack of music on this one was, but in retrospect, it kind of just, it did its job. It kind of just hit it,
Well, they also had two movies that they were going to be pulling from other themes that they're going to reuse certain themes again now that they have them. So to kind of, to fill it in. So I think the farther you get that down the timeline, the less he needs to provide for.
Well, I mean, you got Lopty Neck and you got Yub Yub at the end.
All right, that's it. You just ended the conversation.
Well, there's something to be said for that, though. I mean, Williams is not afraid to go there. I mean,
he started in jazz. I mean, he was a jazz musician, and he wrote the Cantina songs, and he wrote Lapty Neck and stuff. So it's like he's cutting in and out of.
Not only that, but creating a language in itself, because these songs are written in Huttese or whatever, and whatever, and it's just And Williams not being a film, like again, thinking back to what he said about I'm not a big film lover or whatever. I mean, he's got to create a world here in the music. So yeah, you're contributing to that. So
yeah. 84 would be Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Mm-hmm.
Now after that, he started to go into some serious work. Like he really kind of broke away from this. He did Witches of Eastwick, Empire of the Sun, Accidental Tourist. Then he came back for Last Crusade, Born on the 4th of July, Always Stanley and Iris. You see where I'm going. 1990, he would hit big with Home Alone, which is just that magical.
Yeah.
I think of it as a precursor to Harry Potter, which I'm sure we'll get to. 100%. It kind of has that, even though it has just a mystical quality to it, and it's got the holiday theming to it. My final pick, and then I'll be bowing out for the most part for the rest of the episode, is 1992. Second time working with Oliver Stone for the JFK soundtrack.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. I didn't know he did that.
Yeah, he did Born on the 4th of July, and then he did JFK.
Wow. Okay.
I was a absolute JFK is one of those things that has never sat right with me. Even like growing up, you kind of learn about it. When I saw the film, I was blown away. It was one of those jaw wide open things. I went to go see it multiple times. I have like the book, the screenplay, the whole thing. And this is a different John Williams.
Yeah.
It's a very different John Williams. It's a sense of reverence. And I wrote this word, it doesn't exist, but presidentialism, because you're dealing with two things. You're dealing with like America, and you're dealing with the president. Then you're dealing with a conspiracy and underhandedness and things going on behind your back. So this soundtrack is of two minds. There's the like that, those drums that you hear like at a presidential funeral. And there's that reverent score that he would echo in Saving Private Ryan. But then there's this, like when all the conspiracy stuff is going on, the music is very paranoid. It's very kind of like you feel like
chaotic.
You're being watched, chaotic, and I think it colors the other stuff with a sense of melancholy. Like the other score isn't bright and presidential. It's solemn and presidential because of the subject matter. So, what I enjoy, I don't like listening to it, but when I do listen to it, you get that there's that yin and yang of something high and mighty and the ideals that America strived for. And then there's the underpinnings of what was going on and channeling against him. And Williams really had to kind of have almost, I guess, like almost like two faces on, almost like scoring two different films. One is kind of, the standard thing, and then one is this undercurrent of just, evil and conspiracy. And
that is a
really looking behind your back,
a brilliant assessment. And, when we first talked about doing this, I wasn't sure exactly how we were going to do this. And it was like, are we doing a top five or that kind of thing?
Top five, JFK.
No. To be honest, I mean, Andy had written, had given us some stuff through email about some of his picks, and he wrote out what he thought, and and I kind of thought about it. I was like, wow, a lot of what he picked was like, major themes and things like that. I kind of went back and I said, well, what if, I was like, I'm starting to think of like, what could I, pick of as far as like incidental type music, like cues, like not specific, like major themes, but like, and I happened to pick the motorcade, like the beginning of the film for JFK, powerful piece of music right there.
I mean,
because what you're getting is like what you said, Dean, is like that taking the proudness of America and souring the notes in this like really sort of chaotic moment where it's not our finest hour. It's not America's finest hour. And it just, it's a tremendous piece right there. That to me is, just, even if, you're not supposed to enjoy it, but that's the point. It gets, it gets you there. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So, I absolutely love that whole movie. Everything about the movie, the acting, the music, everything. I mean, even the weird, cut to black and white, like Joe Pesci pulling his wig off. I mean, like it all fits. Like it all, it was my introduction to Oliver Stone and stuff. So I
Yeah, and Stone is such an in-your-face director and movie maker that I think he, I think John Williams captured the sense of paranoia that Oliver Stone was presenting on the screen. All these different theories are flying across the screen of the mob and this and who did, and under it is just this foreboding when they have those scenes like this, like it's like I'm not doing it right, but it's kind of like this
drone,
almost it's just droning, suspenseful.
The tension throughout.
So,
that's what made like the scenes, like the scene where he's sitting there with Donald Sutherland when he's like spelling it all out for him. And that one scene where they're sitting on the bench and he's like, that scene was tremendous. And the music there, it takes you. Oh my God.
With the piano, like, no, like random, like it's just trying to get you going. So, that was JFK. That's going to do it for my three. So we're gonna carry on. 93 would see Jurassic Park, which is a classic among classics of scores. It's gorgeous.
So many,
the majesty,
so many themes.
The majesty of the dinosaurs and just trying to capture that. Almost like it's almost regal. In how it approaches these beasts. And. Not a typical score.
But also playing up on the theme park aspect too, like the whimsical, the childlike wonder and that kind of thing too was great.
There's 2 or 3 main themes in that song, in that movie. So it's like pick that Jurassic Park song. You probably do the ding, 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 but there's other ones too that are like immediately recognizable. Of course, I can't think of right now, but
so many. 93, he would do Schindler's List. He would pick up an Oscar for that.
Do you hear the quote about that Schindler's List? John Williams got to see the movie and he called Steven Spielberg and he's like, you need somebody better than me to do this. And he says, I know, but they're all dead.
No can do. You're the best. You're the best we got. Let's skip ahead. Let's jump to 2001. And that's where Andy's gonna kick us off with Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, right?
99 with Phantom Menace.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Yep.
Phantom Menace. That's right. Duel of the Fates. I'm sorry.
Duel of the Fates. It's okay. I'm going to monologue for 30 seconds.
You'll be going twice in a row. So
I'm going to monologue for 30 seconds because I need to take you on a
adventure
here.
Take your time.
Okay.
Go ahead.
You guys know that had some health stuff recently, and when you're kind of laid out and can't really go anywhere, you start like taking stock about things and thinking about like how tenuous things are, what's good, what do I like, what do I not like, that sort of stuff. And I've come to recognize lately that I can tell if I like a song within 10 seconds of hearing it. And that's why I have Shazam on my phone. If I walk into Hot Topic and I hear 10 seconds, I'll just grab Shazam and I'll put it in my pocket and listen to it later. I know immediately if I like a song or not.
Mm-hmm.
But I've gotten kind of addicted to this feeling, this very specific feeling where certain artists will present something so out there that it kind of hurts to take in a good way. Not like, oh my God, this sucks. I can't listen to this. It's dissonant or whatever. But it's more of like this is so unique that I can't take it all in. I need to hear this again. Like I want to play it again right away. And there's been many, many times where like you'll listen to it 2 more times and you're like, I still don't know if I like this. I'm not sure. And then you go to bed and you wake up and you're like, yeah, this is my favorite thing now. I'm going to listen to this for the rest of my life. It's like, there's these little things that it hurts a little bit to take in because your brain is like, am I going to like this? Oh my God, is this going to be my favorite thing ever? And it's not just like a throwaway song where it's like, oh yeah, I like the beat, I like the thing or whatever. And there's been a couple of artists recently that this has happened. Like there's a girl named Lola Young that happened this year that I heard a couple of her songs and I was like, wow, this is, and Billie Eilish, when she first came out, it was like, just, this is so different. I don't know if I like this or not. And then, you just keep going. But anyway, there's this old quote that says, don't worry about people stealing your ideas. If your ideas are any good, you're going to have to ram them down people's throats. And all that to say, bringing in the genius of Williams and Lucas, we heard absolutely nothing like Duel of the Fates in any context of Star Wars in the 22 years that it existed. It's the same thing with the visuals and the storytelling of the actual movie. Our generation, us old folks, kind of went into Phantom Menace with like, we were excited, but we were like, don't screw me over here. I need this to be cool or whatever. but we were presented with so much new stuff at first. Take Jar Jar out of the equation. I'm a lesser artist than Lucas and Williams and Doug Chang and all those guys are, because I would have played the hits. I would have this is what made Star Wars a hit. I would have, all the ships would have looked like the Millennium Falcon. All the music would have been this, all of the, all this stuff, but they said, screw that. 90% of this stuff you're going to see and hear nothing like anything you've ever seen in Star Wars. Like there's like this weird aliens, and like even like the Naboo starfighters are like squeaky sounding, like when they go around. But like Williams comes at us with Duel of the Fates, and it's, what the hell is this church choral kind of music? And it now in the Star Wars universe, there's nothing more iconic other than the Force theme and the Imperial March. That's those three, but like it's defying convention. It's that nothing's been that fast. The choral, and like I don't know if you've watched videos of him conducting that, but like you can tell that the floor is shaking when they're doing that. Like it just felt so big, and I can get goosebumps. Look at this, just talking about it. We just cut the fanboy shit. It gives Brahms, Wagner, Fly the Valkyries, Stravinsky, Run for the, like this song, Duel of the Fates, could have been played in the 1400s, 1700s, and it just fits so freaking brilliant. And again, throw Jar Jar out the window, throw the banking clan or whatever the hell it is in the prequels. This song was just one of those things where they just said, you're going to get something new and you're going to like it. Yeah. And, and I am so over the moon with that. The only thing that they ever did that with the sequel trilogy is Rey's theme. And Rey's theme was very dear to my heart too, because my daughter was born around the same time, but it felt different than anything that we'd heard. It had that like kind of like glockenspiel kind of introduction or whatever. But Duel of Fate specifically, it's just, it put that song on with headphones, and it's just that the choral, we've never heard or seen anything like episode 1. And, whether the movie's good or not, it's just, they just defied convention, and they just said, here's the new Star Wars, whether you like it or not. Yeah. We're not, and like, that's what Lucas keeps saying about the new Disney Star Wars is like, I wanted to take it to the next level to show people stuff that they never wanted to do, or never thought they wanted with the sequel trilogy. But you guys just went and played all the hits. You played another desert planet, another Death Star. Yeah. And it hurts my heart that we never got to see what where Lucas would have taken us against our will.
Yeah. I remember when that soundtrack again first came out, it was like it was a complete double album, complete. Yeah. I mean, it was a tremendous amount of music. Duel of the Fates, probably my favorite piece.
Yes, it's an epic song. It's.
I mean, you could take that out of Star Wars and just be like, it's epic, just epic. It's just it is what it is. I mean, it's just a phenomenal piece of music. But yeah, you're right, Andy. I mean, that's I think looking back on, people are nowadays are the prequels look better now than they ever did and all that kind of thing. I think it was always there, but you're right. We wanted to see what we thought we wanted to see back then. And it shows. Yeah. Lucas, he did know what he was doing, like you kind of think about it, and it's just like, he
made some mistakes that everybody gloms onto.
I mean, but the passion behind the presentation of what he wanted to convey via, visuals and via, all, the soundtrack and all this stuff. He always said that, if he could, he would make the film silent. There wouldn't be no dialogue. It would just be music, sound effects. And, and for the most part, I mean,
kind of was.
If you turn the sound off, if there's some way you can isolate just the score, which I think you can, watching the prequels, you could probably, have a better experience. Maybe
the technology.
I don't
know.
There was one little clip from one of the documentaries where Lucas hears Duel of Fates for the first time, and they're talking about it, and then like John Williams just says like, do you want to keep the choral part? Like, we don't have to keep the choral part. And George is like, yeah, he quote says, it has the inevitable fate of doom for the third movie to bring it around. But there's just this hallway conversation where it's like, do you want to keep the chorus?
Not a big deal.
And I mean, like that's, oh my God, could
Are
you
you
imagine if
kidding
they
me?
didn't? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right, Andy. How maligned or not the prequel trilogy is, John Williams still brought the fire. He still brought new things to it.
Oh, yeah.
and to match. And like you said, like, yeah, that's a hair, raise the hairs on the back of your neck moment, and that's one of those parts of, that's one piece of music that takes you right to that lightsaber duel.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said, these and it ties back to Eric. I think it ties back to Fiddler on the Roof and what Eric was saying about the chorus and the choral, and how he was missing it, and how Williams used it. And now he brings that full circle, how many years ahead, to bring it to a science fiction film. He's got these tricks in his bag, but it's when do you use them? When's the right time, and how do I not overuse them? Right. And that one's been sitting in his pocket had to be sitting in his pocket for a while. I was like, you know what? This sounds right for this.
Yeah. I urge you guys, if you get a chance, go back and listen to Tradition from the Fiddler soundtrack, from the movie soundtrack. You'll hear it. You'll hear the chorus. You'll instinctively hear that. I mean, they're speaking lyrics, but in this case, I mean, you could swear that it's the same vocal, the same people. Like that did this, like 20, 30 years later. It's like, it's crazy. But
I'm just going to, yeah, that's awesome. I'll check it out. I just, my whole point is like, I'm going to be spending the rest of my time on Earth chasing the people that are going to take me somewhere that I don't know that I want to go.
Yeah. Where
it's like, I used to think that I just want to keep seeing stuff. But I mean, like,
yeah, you like what you like.
I want to get dragged down the dark alleyway and like, check this out, and not sure if I like it at first. I'd love that. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah,
with the
down the rabbit hole, Andy.
Yeah.
Down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to 2001. I got the order wrong. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, which would start a whole other, what is it, quadrilogy, or with parts one,
7, seven and a half.
But, Andy, this was another pick of yours. So why?
Yeah.
This has that whole magical and that theme is another one. You immediately know that you're going into a fantasy land.
Yeah.
The tinkling of the beginning of the
100%. Between 99 and 2000, the company that I worked for to make video games got hired to do a demo for this children's book series that none of us had ever heard of. And we had to read the first 3 books in like 2 or 3 weeks to get as much info as we could to make a demo to do the thing or whatever. And I was just so enamored with the books to begin with. And there was this like sweet little period of time where the books were starting to get popular, but there were no movies yet. And you could only get stuff at like the Warner Brothers stores and the mall. Mm-hmm. And it was all cartoon versions of the characters. So it wasn't Daniel Radcliffe. It was what we saw as Harry Potter in our minds. And, I think Williams, was hired to do a promo song for, I think, the store or like a commercial or something for the books, and ended up doing the Hedwig theme, which is the one that the famous that we know for that. And then they ended up like making the movie, and they're like, who are we going to get for this? And I got to get John Williams, and we already like this, so please do this. So like they already had like the motif or whatever. But what's crazy though is if you ever heard the theme to Swan Lake, it's almost exactly the same thing. Like it's just rearranged some of the notes, and it's the theme to Swan Lake, but it's the way it was presented and stuff. And like you watch, just after reading the books and getting so enamored with the books, watching the movie, and then like there's the introduction and the scene and all this stuff or whatever, and Dumbledore puts the baby on the stoop and says, "Good luck, Harry Potter," and it does that. I bawled my eyes out. Like I was uncontrollably crying. I mean, because it was like they fucking nailed it. Like the costumes, the sounds, the look, like everything was like Christopher Columbus set up this. The first movie was the closest to any of the books. Yeah. Everything else was like just the tip of the iceberg. But the first movie with like the feeling of the magic, like there's just like, if you listen to Hedwig's theme with headphones on, you're getting swirled around like owls are flying around your head. And like, it's just got this, it's become one of the most iconic themes in the last 30 years. We're kind of like in a disposable, less iconic state of pop culture right now.
Mhm.
Everything's kind of like,
Mhm.
nothing's sticking because there's just so much shit out there or whatever.
Yeah.
But it fits so perfectly from the entire song from start to finish. It's just sweeping. It's got that darkness to it that's coming, and it's just so freaking good. They just nailed it so good.
It's so interesting too that it's Hedwig's theme and not Harry Potter's theme.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
It's his owl that it's the song is written about. It's
Yeah.
and it's like, and she's there throughout all the films, and it's
And like it's
kinda,
funny if you watch some of the documentaries too, like everybody's like showing up for the day for the recording session or whatever, and then they hand out the paper, the stuff, and all the violinists are like, oh shit. And they're like, they have to get extra time to try to like figure out what they're going to do and stuff.
Yeah.
And if you watch the orchestra do that, it's insane, man. Like I can't overstate how iconic those notes are compared to the shit that's been out there in the last 20 years. Like it nailed pop culture perfectly. That's why.
And
I love
again,
it so much.
it's the simplicity of the notes too. Like that's what
Yeah.
he's most proud of. It's the simple moments, Jaws, Close Encounters,
Mhm.
that it's these little like just little motifs, like, but yet he's capable of doing these elaborate, big, like complex things, but he's most proud of those moments. It's so interesting to hear him speak of that
Yeah. Yeah,
in
he's
any
got a
interview.
a deft touch. He knows when to pull back, when something needs to, not
Less
everything
is
needs to be
more.
complex.
Yeah.
Yeah, when it just
Right.
needs to be something simple.
Mhm.
He's
And
played on
to the
a
point.
Celeste, which I've never heard of.
Mhm.
Like that's the name of the instrument.
Mhm.
That kind of sounds like a music box.
Yeah.
But it kind of mixed it with the synth and stuff. It's pretty neat. But again, gives that childlike wonder and stuff. And then by the seventh movie, there's no music box. It's just da, 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 But
Yeah.
Cool. All right,
Yeah.
we have one more stop on this tour. You know what I think I'm gonna do, guys? I'm gonna make a Spotify playlist with a couple of the tracks from each one of the things that we picked, just to kind of give people because we're kind of gushing about it, we're explaining,
Yeah.
and we're going dun dun dun, and we're
Yeah.
kind of doing it. But I think for people to hear it, I
Yeah.
think we'll expose them to not only to some of the themes, but then to some of the incidental music and how important it is to it. So I think we're gonna do a playlist on this. So
Sounds wonderful.
Eric, we're gonna jump to 2002. This was on my list, and I
Yeah.
took it off.
Yeah.
This movie's near and dear to my heart. I
think it's near and dear to all of our hearts.
I love this movie. And 2002, he would get out of the box and do something very different with Catch Me If You Can.
Yeah. And I just
So
remember.
why did you pick this?
Because, well, first of all, I love jazz, and he decided to make a sort of a jazzy score reminiscent of like the 60s sort of jazzy vibe, those movies of like caper films and that kind of thing, but also being slightly more cosmopolitan in the glamour and, portraying that in the character and what he's, but also a touch of the whimsical, the child, because he's a kid, right? So there's that, those little motifs in there. I just remember, Andy, you and I saw this film together.
Yeah.
I remember when we first saw it, and we were really surprised at how good it was, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when we saw it, we kind of went in, really weren't expecting anything, right? We just, we're in for a good time, we're going out to the movies. We were really entertained by this. And I think those opening credits, you and I might have looked at each other and said, this is fucking great.
Yeah, Saul Bass.
That's Saul Bass. Yeah,
Saul Bass artwork. Yeah.
And just the music, like, like
it has like a caper movement.
Yes.
To it,
oh my god! And it hits you so
like
right
creeping
up,
around.
But again, that touching every aspect of the characters, the emotion of the film, the sadness of the family theme, of the family breaking apart, and that always gets me. And Chris Walken, of course, taking that to the God. I mean, he took that to whole new levels. But the hearing that music in the background, and then of course, like I said, like the whimsical when it's like the that it's like that playful music when, he's just, when he's, that he's still a kid and he's, he's getting away with all this shit, right? He's
Barry,
like,
Barry Allen.
Yeah, exactly. And but I feel like a lot of his, movie scores are, you're dealing with multiple characters, multiple themes. Here, it's just basically you're dealing with Frank and maybe Tom Hanks. Maybe Tom Hanks is the like, because he's on the run, like he's like trying to catch him. But other than that, it's like one character you're dealing with, and it's like these different multiple themes for just one character, which I thought was unique and different.
Plus, it's a period piece also. So again,
exactly,
everything, all these other ones we're talking about are kind of fantastical. Don't really happen at a particular time, but this is rooted in the late 60s.
This is based on a true story, more or less. I mean, this is a real life figure that, and let's not forget that. But I mean, it's exaggerated, I'm sure. But also one of the first Williams scores to share his time with some needle drops, right? There's a lot of great songs on period songs on this, including Nat King Cole. Dean, we just
Christmas song.
The Christmas song, which
was
was very effective in the film. That's one of my favorite moments in the film. I cry, like not just Williams, but having to hear Nat King Cole. So it's a great soundtrack.
When he runs back to the house and sees the family. Where are you going tonight, Frank?
Yeah.
Where are you going tonight, Frank?
It's a great film. It's one of my favorite. And this is late in Spielberg's career. Yeah. This is when he decidedly became darker at that period. He was doing much darker kind of stuff. He was like experimenting. And here, like it's serious, but yet, it's bringing back that fun aspect of Spielberg.
It's a good time. It's a fun movie to watch. It's a keeper.
Really good. It's one of my favorites.
It's a chase film.
Yep.
Tom Hanks was at the height of his powers.
Oh my God! Everybody's great in it.
He was in the can't miss phase. Like everything he was doing was kind of everybody wanted to see him. Leo was coming out of Titanic, and
this is one of his
starting to build a career.
In my humble opinion, this might be one of my favorite roles by him.
One of my
performances. He was breaking out of pretty boy phase for me at this point.
Yeah.
Like, I had the same thing with Brad Pitt, Legends of the Fall, like pretty boy. I don't want to hear about him. Titanic was Leonardo DiCaprio, whatever, but like he has just turned into such a wonderful, well-rounded actor. Same thing with Brad Pitt. I mean, but this role specifically for Leo, I think it was one of the first times where I paid attention, where I was like, okay, he's pretty great.
And the brilliance of the score too is like, it's still orchestral, but yet the decision to use jazz-led instruments, the saxophone plays a big role.
And like an oboe, right? I think there's an oboe in there too.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's just, just, putting those in the forefront, but you still have the orchestra backing it up, but it's subtle. And it evokes jazz. It evokes, like some of the great jazz performers when they decided to go orchestral, like Ray Charles with the strings, and Charlie Parker with strings and that kind of thing. Like that's what I think of when I hear the score. It's
he definitely evokes that. Just to bounce off of Andy. When he said about DiCaprio, 2002, he did Gangs of New York and Catch Me If You Can.
Yeah.
And then his next two films after that were The Aviator and The Departed. So he was, I always align him with like Johnny Depp, because Johnny Depp had the same thing where he was a pretty boy. He was 21 Jump Street, but he made specific film role choices to not go the easy route. And he took things that were different and difficult and small to separate himself from that. And DiCaprio did it as brilliantly. Johnny Depp really got into the whole costume thing later on, but in the 90s, he was making some really good choices, and DiCaprio was very deliberate about that too, of not doing that kind of stuff. And he really, him aligning himself with Spielberg and more to a larger extent, Scorsese really paid off the dividends for him.
And Brad Pitt just stopped showering.
Well, he doesn't need to. He looks, he looks fantastic. So, if it's that simple, Andy, I'm just going to stop today.
Yeah. So do you want my favorite? One of my favorite facts about John Williams is that he calls everybody baby, like a jazz guy. Like,
like baby.
Yeah,
Well,
like
he was a pianist. I mean, he
Yeah.
worked on several films, as part of the score, but he was just a musician in the band scoring this stuff. I mean, he did some,
yeah,
and
like
he never considers himself like a great musician, but people say otherwise.
Yeah.
Like they're telling him, like, yeah.
J.J. Abrams just said the first time he met him and he let him hear the music, he was like, well, what do you think, baby? Do you like it? And he's like, he keeps calling me baby. This is the greatest thing I've ever heard.
He's hip. He's hip. So I think that's going to do it. I mean, we have just literally scratched the surface. We've given you a couple of our takes and hopefully help you maybe suss out how we listen to this kind of stuff and what it makes us feel and what we're listening for and how we're able to take it out of the movie. Why do people listen to soundtracks? That's weird. It's what, not necessarily that, because you can get some of those same feelings. You can revisit the film without having to watch it sometimes. If you're driving, if you're taking a trip and you put the soundtrack on, you can enjoy it just as well. So I think I'm going to do that. I think we're going to make a Spotify playlist. And we'll make it dynamic. So if people want to let us know what their favorite score was or what movie was, we can build that, and it'll probably be greatest hits, which would be a lot of fun. I think it'll be a fun thing to do. And like I said, to celebrate this man at 93, I think he is, who just said, "I'll do one more and done," and then said, "No, I can't stop."
Still sharp as a tack.
Yeah.
Too,
and he has. Yeah, he's not faltering. It's not like it's like, this guy, man, when is he going to go? It's like,
right.
Wherever these ideas come from, it's endless. It's bottomless. Like I said, everything is unique. We've talked about so many different scores that just the three each that we picked are vastly different, even though some of them are in the same genre. This man is nothing short of amazing, Andy.
There's just when you hear him talk, he's like, he's doing things with his hands. He's like, he's doing textures when he's talking. He's like, I need a little bit more of a, he's like, it's almost, I forgot who said it. It was somebody like, I think said the first time they saw Jimi Hendrix or something, he was like a conduit, like that guy's a conduit. And I think that John Williams he's pulling
like a different language.
He's just a conduit from like, it's there, like a radio, as he's picking up the signals and
he's
stuff.
Communicating.
Wonderful,
and
wonderful
we're
to watch.
Thankful. We should, everybody who's listening to this should be thankful that we're alive. When this man is alive and working and giving us this stuff where you can still go to the theater and see it and hear it in all its glory. And as a young person, if you're listening, going to films and the majesty and the wonder of soundtracks, some of it might be a lost art. There are some composers like Michael Giacchino and some of those ones, they're kind of keeping it alive. They're out there, you just got to find them, but no one's going to top this guy, John Williams. So that's going to do it for this episode of the 3324 podcast. Andy Cremeans, I didn't drop it. We're going to drop the link. Andrew Cremeans art on Instagram. You got to follow him. Otherwise, you're not going to know what he's up to. There's no way to know.
Can't have that.
Well,
thank you for inviting me and letting me pontificate and blow V8.
Oh my God. Yes.
Always. And of course, you've got R2 for the people on YouTube. You've got R2. He should show up in the back when we.
And that's such a great pose you got him in. Look at that. He's so
he's looking.
He's supposed to turn him on.
He's pretty freaking sexy right there, right?
He's looking and he's waiting. Eric said that. Yeah. Eric said he was sexy, not me. So. But that's going to do it for this episode of 3324 podcast. Eric is going to be on his comfy couch, and hey, Eric, Santa brought me a new chair. So I got rid of
my God. Yes, I didn't even notice. Look at that.
Santa, the beautiful Santa in my life brought me this beautiful chair that I put together. It's got a lumbar support. It's got neck support. Everything I never had in my green IKEA chair.
There you go. See?
I mean, that's why I'm in such a good mood. You see how like vivacious and full of life?
Yes.
It's all about the chair. I have armrests. The armrest swing. I'm like a kid. I need John Williams to come up with a theme for me. I need like Dean's theme of me sitting in the chair. Just magical and upbeat and happy.
Yeah.
So that's going to set the tone for the rest of 2025 because I'm comfortable. So we're going to have a lot of great episodes. So anyway, that's going to do it. Visit us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. You can follow us there. Share with your friends. If you like what we're doing, share it and help spread the word. We continue to grow, and we do it because of listeners like you. So for Andy, for Eric, this has been Dean asking you to please not be kind and rewind because, well, these are movies It's movie and music. So what we're going to do is say, be kind and rewind, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
You've been listening to the 3324 podcast with Dean Legiro and Eric Kuber. You can find us on your favorite podcast provider, so please like, subscribe, and rate to become a part of the 3324 family. Your feedback is important, so make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at 3324 podcast and on Twitter at 3324p to join the conversation.